It's about time.
Welcome everybody to QuickCast episode 16. My name is Jeremy Paul, aka Sleepy Juice, and this is StarCraft 2, so let's go ahead and get into it. Now today's a very special day for us here on QuickCast because it's the first day that we actually have a professional player in the replay. We do a lot of lower league plays, a lot of Platinum 2 Master Leagues, but we very rarely, in fact never, have gotten a professional player up to now. And it's exciting because of who it is also. Now, before we go into that, I want to give a quick thank you to DJHelium, who's the Terran player today and does an amazing job. Absolutely perfect. But his opponent is a tough one. It's Evil Genius's EGHuK. Now, when I first saw this replay, I thought, I have to do this because I've been looking for an example of forcing somebody to make units through aggression and forcing positions through aggression, and EGHuK is the king of that. We see very little of that, unfortunately, in this replay. So that's not going to be our lesson for today. We'll actually find that in a different one, and we'll get there. And for those of you who are trying to learn, it's a more complicated topic anyway, so maybe it's not quite there for you anyways. But we are going to see a different topic today, and it's going to be something that hopefully you can use in your games. And again, please send me those replays so we know everybody's improving. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get in the game and we'll check it out. Alright, now to officially introduce our players, down in the bottom left we have the red Protoss EGHuK with an amazing APM already, and up in the top left we have our Terran player and hero and submitter today, DJHelium. We'll see how he goes. Now we're going to be playing this map on Frost, this map. Now this map is going to have the second directly or natural directly out the main, the third's going to be off to the side here, and then the fourth base is going to be either a toss-up. It's either going to be this forward base here, which is going to give us a lot of engagements at these positions, and this choke point here. There'll be a lot of dancing back and forth, or up on the top left here in this choke point here to cover this bridge. Now the other choice is to take the fourth base across the bridge to the right. So if you're in the bottom left, we're going to be taking it over here. At this point, you're actually separating your bases and having a choke point in between them. So it's not normally one you take, but it is an option to keep in mind. You do have this ledge here overlooking it also. Most people will take the forward base in this situation, as this is a really hard choke to hold here. Now Frost does have the two towers in the middle that are going to cover the middle ground, so make sure you try to cover those towers as much as possible, because then that leaves only the path on the left, and of course any sort of air units or wraparound units from the far side to get in there. Now we do see that both players are going for barracks or gateway first, and it looks like gas is getting thrown down for each of them. Now this is going to be more important here for the Protoss player, as the see if EGHuK's going to go for 2 gases, which he is, and then if he's going to be going for 2 or 3 probes in each gas. Now on the other end of that, we do see that the Terran player is going for that barracks with the gas on that, so it's chances he's going to be going for something aggressive also, some sort of tech play. He's not going to be going for a command center first or a no gas expansion. So it does look like we're getting 3 probes on each of the gas here as this third one goes into there. So then what that means is that's going to be some sort of tech opening. It's not going to be just a simple mothership opening that we can actually expand off of. It's going to be a tech opening. We're going to be seeing it as the probe goes up here with only 2 pylons in base. It looks like he's going to be proxying. Now, the question is, what is he going to proxy? How quick is he going to proxy? Is it going to be aggressive or not? Those are the questions we're going to ask. Obviously, the scout here is going to hit this watchtower and go around it. He's not going to be able to see that pylon up there. Now, the second barracks, which the Terran player is going for, because the Terran's going to be going for a very aggressive opening of 2 racks, it actually sees the probe come down from where the proxy pylon is and actually gets to see it go back out as it's going past. Now, as the Reaper's coming out here, the first Reaper, he's going to actually follow this probe and see if he can chase down where this probe's going. Now, he's lost the probe at this point, so he's not totally sure. He's going to check for basic proxy positions, and look, very good chance he's going to see this one here. Yes, he does. He sees that run right there. He's going to stop there and start penning it down and seeing if he can cancel it. Now, when this is scouted, we have the ability as a Protoss player in this position to kind of hold out and see how much, damage we can do that's not direct. So in this case, we have the engineering bay going down because he may want to build turrets. If it's going to be an oracle build to actually get a little pressure on there, those turrets are going to help because the oracles are just going to shred the marines, especially with reapers in the background. If he does go for a void ray all in, it's nice to have some turrets there also. It's not going to be as necessary, but really to kind of hold off those oracles to keep that going. It cancels at very last second. It looks like there were no turrets put down, but the engineering bay is down. It's not going to be upgrading for a while, so that is a little bit earlier than we would initially want that engineering bay. A little bit of loss of minerals there, but we're going to be okay at this point. It's not game ending. We do have the 3 Reapers coming out across the map, a bunker going down to hold off any sort of pushes in there. Now, for those of you who are new to QuickCast, what we like to do is we like to cover a single topic every game from these games that we're going out and watching. And today's topic is going to be splitting your army. So the ability to have a death ball is great, but really, if you can have a death ball while splitting off units to do something else, and the Reaper's coming in, all they're going to get to see here is they're going to see these 3 gateways, and that's all. He's not going to see any tech whatsoever, mainly because HeliumandEGHuK doesn't have any tech whatsoever. He's still on gateway tech. But we'll see what he ends up going for that, and it kind of leaves him in the dark there. We do have the mothership coming out to push him out. Now, back to our topic, that splitting your army. In this case here, we do see that HeliumandEGHuK's going to be pushing with the Stalker up to the enemy base, or actually cutting back, while the mothership's going out. This is great. He's splitting his armies up. He's having a specific unit go out. This mothership cannot be hurt by these Reapers. It can actually make them feel the necessary to do stuff. Now, the Reaper's going to surround the Stalker here that was fighting off the main base. Good micro there, pulling the hurt Reaper back. But it looks like these two are going to get picked off, both just staying a little bit too long. He really wanted that Stalker and wasn't able to pull it down. The single Reaper does get out, though, and he's able to pull back to the main base. He'll end up going around for a little bit of scouting, probably poking in a little bit later, get a little bit more scouting information, which is what the Reapers are best at. Now, we do see tech going down for the Terran player. It looks like he'll be going for a 1-1-1 type build, minus he has the fact that he has 2 barracks, which he started out with. But he does have stim finishing up here. Meanwhile, on the Protoss side, we do see the robotics bay and the forge coming down. So if we go into kind of what main metagame is here, as we have a little bit of engagement, again, that mothership split off great there. He's going to have the mothership pull those Marines back, and he's going to try to poke in with the Stalkers at the front. It looks like the good play there by DJHelium, though, keeping those Stalkers pinned back, even taking one out. It looks like those Stalkers are going to go back towards the watchtowers. They're going to end up taking map control, keep a little bit of safety there. Now, the main metagame for PvT at this point is you have bio with Vikings and medevacs and eventually ghosts is basically what the Terran army is going to be going for. Now, for the Protoss player, you're going to be looking at something where a lot of them will go into Colossi and then switch to Ghost, or go into Ghost and then follow up with Colossi. We'll see how that works out in this game here, but that's basically what we're looking for. Now, this Reaper is going to be poking around, and he's going to take a lot of damage from both of those Stalkers on the tower. He's going to come in, try to get a little bit more damage. But again, we have good unit placement from HeliumandEGHuK, having his army split up and covering a lot of area. That mothership takes it down before that Reaper is able to get in and get any information whatsoever. Now, we do have upgrades coming down, so it does look like it's going to go into a little bit longer of a game. We have armor coming down for the Protoss player. Also, he's getting his council to get the blink or charge. And on the Terran side, we have shields coming down, and also he's getting his attack upgrades. Now, normally you'll see Protoss players get their armor upgrades because Zealots will last an extremely long time with the armor upgrades, and then you'll end up seeing them round out their upgrades later on. Now, we do have a drop coming into the natural with the Terran player, DJHelium, about to drop in and see if he can do any damage here. We do have the army just to the right there off the natural. He's going to drop in. That's great pro pull there. All of those pulling out very quickly. We're only 6 probes killed total, including the one up in the north there. Now, he is going to come back into the main and pull this down. He did get the mothership core to use an overcharge on that natural, so that energy is going to be wasted. He is going to drop a few Marines here just to keep that army pinned back. They're not going to be enough to kill anything, but it is going to be enough to make sure that aggression is at a halt. And especially with players like HeliumandEGHuK, who are very aggressive, you want to keep them pinned back in their base. They're not going to be able to do as much as they want. Now, we can see HeliumandEGHuK got a really good feel for what was going on here. He was able to see all the buildings that are coming down, and he's continuing his upgrades. He's going now into charge in his second armor upgrade. Meanwhile, one attack is about to finish for the Terran player as he has more medevacs coming out and going into his basic bio build. Now, as we can see, we don't have either player making workers at this point in time. We do have the Templar archives coming down, so it looks like we'll be going into High Templar instead of Colossi here. We have the Terran players going with concussive shell and armor, so it looks like he's not moving towards Vikings, which since he hasn't seen Colossi is fine, and he hasn't been going towards a Ghost Academy either. He might be going for just a little bit heavier of a tech. Now, we only see them on 2 bases each as Storm starts coming down. So it looks like it's going to be a very aggressive game from this point in time. We don't see them gearing up to take a third. Normally Protoss will wait till they see the Terran player taking a third in most cases, but there are cases where Protoss players can be aggressive economically and do that first, but usually you will see them be passive on that and wait until it's safe for them to take a third. Now the Terran player is coming down. He's going to be able to push in here to the natural of the Protoss player. And meanwhile, HUK's be able to see all of this as he has an observer right there, and he's able to take his Warp Prism up there with 2 Templar, and his Storm is about to finish here, so it looks like he's going to be able to have energy for a Storm drop there. Good splitting up his army again. We're talking about that as a tool that you can use throughout the game. We know that the enemy army is right outside our base. We have just a couple high damage units moving out through the air up to the north to cover the enemy natural. So the question is where we're going to go. Here comes a Storm. Storm goes down there, takes out a lot of SCVs. It looks like he's taken out a total of 17 with just that. This Archon's probably going to be picked off, but at this point he's able to do so much damage with that, it was completely worth it. Meanwhile, we do have the Terran player moving into the natural as the HUK's army moved a little bit south to cover the third base area as he's about to take his third now finally. So it looks like he is going to take his third first. And try to push out that way. He is able to push that army back. It doesn't look like DJHelium wants to take that fight there. Being penned in between the natural and the army would be a bad situation for him. He's going to pull out, and he does actually. It looks like the third base for the Terran player is finished. It does look like HUK saw that. So it's a good time for HUK to be able to try to push and get that third up at the same time. Pushing and expanding at the same time is always a good idea. Now it does look like the army here is being split up perfectly for DJHelium. He has an army coming down here to the third. He also has an army dropping on the natural. Meanwhile, we'll put HUK's vision up there, or HUK's army up in the top right. His army is going to be pushing into the natural also. It looks like that third base is completely canceled. The natural is being crushed here by the DJHelium, but it looks like HUK moving in on the natural is basically, there's nothing there. A good force field keeping those units there. Another good Storm coming down on the main army in HUK's. Another Storm. Every single High Templar that's been put out basically has been able to get his Storms off. It does look like those High Templars in the top right are getting penned off. But let's look at the army here. Another good Storm on the army at the top right. It's still a great economy here for HUK. He's mining off the natural while the enemy's trying to kill it off here. He still has his main mining. It looks like the Terran player, DJHelium's not able to get any mining done at this point. Meanwhile, HUK's army's pushing into the main. DJHelium's army still fighting against buildings and still getting hit with those photon overcharges and zealots being warped in constantly. He's going to be losing a lot of units here. He needs to kind of retain those units in these base trade situations because he's going to need those to actually finish the game. Now, it looks like all of DJHelium's bases buildings are being evacuated. So it looks like HUK's going to just be able to tear down what's left there and probably pull most of his army back. Now, DJHelium is finally grouping his army together. He did a great job splitting his army there, but he has to kill these probes here. The probes look like they're going to get out. And it looks like not a single probe gets picked off there. He's already has a base building up here in the 4th position. So we have DJHelium with looks like no SCVs. We have HUK with 22 probes at this moment. So HUK definitely has the advantage going into this new situation where the base trade's already been completed. DJHelium did a great job splitting up his army. He had the group going down to the 3rd. He also had the group dropping into the natural. And now he's kind of grouped together, but his buildings are being split up. Meanwhile, we have HUK, who has a nice, solid point at his 4th base, where he has 22 probes plus his entire army, and he split up his zealots to where he has zealots still in the main of DJHelium, basically taking out all the buildings that can't do anything. He's using those fairly cheap, expensive for other units, but fairly cheap in the idea of the Protoss army, those zealots that just take a little bit of a bait here, seeing if he can pull the Terran army down through the choke, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. DJHelium with great splits. Like, every time his Marines are coming to a stationary point where they're attacking or they're moving into or waiting for a position, he's splitting them up because he knows that HUK's main weapon against them, because we need that AoE as for Protoss players going against medevacs, because otherwise we just can't do enough damage. That AoE for HUK right now is that Storm, and DJHelium, being aware of that, knowing he doesn't have any Ghost, is doing a great job splitting up his Marines every single chance he gets, much the same way they do against Banelings. So it's very good there. Now, we do see HUK splitting up even more there. He has another Zealot chasing around the map, trying to see if he can find any any expansions that are being taken, because you don't want to lose to that hidden expansion that you could have scouted with that single zealot and you didn't. So right now we have DJHelium with his army all grouped together, all his buildings split up, and no real way to defend it. All his SCVs got picked off. He's now has down to mules, and it looks like HeliumUK with his split on his zealots, having one zealot check the top left, one zealot's checking the right. He's able to actually see that new base that's coming down and mining with the mules. Now, we can see the army value for DJHelium is actually fairly large, but that's all he has at the moment. So he needs to, with no economy, he needs to either end this quickly or he's going to lose, because we can see HeliumUK's already got 4 or 3 gateways down. He has an army here to defend it. He has a mothership core. He has 2 Templar. He's in a very good position after this base trade. He has the zealots. He has a zealot at the top right taking care of this base. He has 2 zealots in the top left taking care of the remaining buildings up there. He knows where, oh, we have a good, so this is a choke we were talking about right here, and it looks like the storms are going to come down and actually knock off a few of the medevacs. Another good storm taking a bunch of health off those Marines. The Marines are basically all we have left. Now, DJHelium, I think, is aware that he knows he needs to end this game soon. He has his army there. He can see, he's been able to poke in there and see that the base exists. He knows that he's having trouble getting any sort of income in right now, and he's basically working off of 3 mules and 1 SCV that just got built. So he's having to push in, he's dancing in and out. Now I put up DJHelium's vision in the top right here so you can kind of see what he's looking at. Take a look at those splits. Again, the beautiful splits waiting for being prepared for those storms, because you never know when they're going to come in, and he's splitting his army up. Another good example of splitting the army up. He has his main army waiting to engage, but he's using the small chunk of his army to push in there and hopefully bait those storms or pull the army into his position so that he's not having to funnel through that choke into the overcharge and into the sentries. Now, it'll be a question of if he has enough at this point, because we still have, oh, great force fields there, trapping those units in. He's able to pull in a medevac, and great micro there. The pulling into the medevac, pulling up those units and pulling them back and dropping them down again. He doesn't have the production to keep making this, even though he has those 5 barracks and they are able to pump Marines one at a time. It's just not enough to keep up with this, the economy of HeliumUK right now. He has this fully mining base. Meanwhile, we see HeliumUK's army still split up, taking out everything else. Now he's going to try to bait these back again, but it doesn't look like HeliumUK's fighting. I think HeliumUK's aware that he is actually in the lead at the point. Another great force field set. You always, every time you see HeliumUK, he does a lot of gateway pressures, a lot of pushes like that. Always has wonderful force fields. Another one where he's able to trap all those units. A good pickup by the medevac, able to drop off another like 5. So 5 of those units survive. That if I were playing the Terran right now, they would not have survived. So that's great play by DJHelium there. And we'll put up HeliumUK's vision here so you can kind of see what he's working on as he's flowing through. Now DJHelium's still trying to set up a single base. Like, he has no mining bases right now. Another great storm down on the main army there. And HeliumUK's just pushing him back there, and this may actually be the end of it. The army's having to pull back, and it looks like he's going to charge into the HeliumUK's army there. A good time, well, a decent time warp. Great force fields. And those force fields trap them all. The medevacs are going to be able to pick up 1, maybe 2 units, and they're going to pull back. Now HeliumUK's going to just basically chase this army. It looks like those zealots and zealots, stalkers, and the sentries right there, and that 1 Templar could probably take this entire army. He's splitting off that little chunk of his army, and they're going to go up to the gateway, or the barracks here, and they're going to start tearing down all the barracks. He has one on the top left here taking care of this, and he has another one in the top right still looking for bases, and you can kind of see he's on a nice little patrol of death, as it were. We do have Cloak coming down for a Banshee, so maybe that's going to be like, this is my last chance, I'm not going to just fold. And we do have the Dark Shrine coming down for HeliumUK, so we're going for a little bit of an interesting builds at this point in time. Nothing you need to see normally, but at the same time, this is not a normal game anymore. We're kind of into the position where we're not totally sure what the other person is doing. HeliumUK has a very good map vision because he's able to great force fields and a great storm there. It's almost not even, it's almost to the point where it's not so exciting when HeliumUK does it anymore, because it's almost perfect every single time. But poor DJHelium has good vision because of the map, because he has his buildings all spread out, but he knows he's not getting anywhere. Meanwhile, HeliumUK's constantly having to check the map to see where these bases, these 2 command centers are going. Now we do see the Warp Prism go down there, but I don't think that's going to really matter too much at this point. The Banshee's about to finish, so the Banshee will come out and work its way down, hopefully to the HeliumUK's base there and try to do some damage on the inside. But I think when he gets to see the full income capacity of HeliumUK, he's probably going to tap out. Now HeliumUK's basically going to chase around chase around this army with the medevacs until he folds. He knows he's been able to run around and find these 2 command centers by splitting his units really well. Unfortunately, because DJHelium has to keep his units all together at this point, he can't even go out after those zealots because he'll be leaving his buildings open at that point. And it looks like all the Marines are going to go down, just the medevacs are left. The Banshee is still going at it. The Banshee's cloaked, but we do have an observer there, and the observer will be catching up. It looks like this command center is going down, and we'll be down to 1 command center, and that's the end of the game. Great game there by DJHelium. Great multitasking by both of them, and great splitting of that army. Alright there, everyone. As we're finishing up this game, let's come back and we'll kind of summarize everything and get a little bit of a conclusion here. Now, what we saw in that game that we want you to take from this is that ability to split up that army. Now, we saw HeliumHuK do a great job of this at the end of the game, splitting off his zealots to take care of just cleaning up the map and to keep his army solidified at his main location in the 4th base there. We also saw him do this several times during the game, but the main one being when he did the Templar drop and actually killed a lot of SCVs while still continuing to micro his army between his 3rd and his 4th. Now, we saw DJHelium, who was a great adversary in this game and also the submitter of this game, so we have to give a big thanks to DJHelium. Please keep submitting those games. But we saw him do a wonderful job of this also. He dropped his few medevacs into the natural while having his army hit the 3rd. He then picked up his army in the 3rd and dropped the main base to basically kill off everything HeliumHuK had at that point. Now, he didn't get the probes, which is what was kind of his downfall in the end, but the multitasking and that split of that army is really good. Now, for a lot of newer players, this is going to be hard. So the multitasking and using those hotkeys and getting everything the way you need to, that takes practice. But this is the things you guys need to work on and kind of get to the point where you can move up in those leagues. Go ahead and practice taking out a few zealots and having them run to the watchtowers by using the shift click on them and then moving your main army back towards the natural. Practice those things. Practice sending 1 zealot out and running around the map. Get that going to where you actually have the ability to check in on those units while still keeping your main force somewhere else. Now, the key is to do all these things without letting your macro slip. Now, we saw in both cases, both players did a great job keeping their macro up. And that's something that's kind of a basic. You need that, so don't let your macro slip to do this. This is a secondary thing, but as the more you practice it, the more it'll become second nature to you. Now, for those of you who are going to go and practice this, please send me some replays. I'd love to know we're making progress. I'd love to see you guys play. We'll even cast some of them. So that's always an option. You can always follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Those are both down below. I'm not totally sure I'll be keeping the Facebook running as it's not very popular, but definitely on the Twitter. And also please like and subscribe to this video. Now, please go out, play those games, and have fun.